Welcome to Miss V, the Storyteller podcast. I am so excited today. God has really blessed me to find people that are storytellers in some form. And I have a guest today who is also a storyteller. And I was so excited to meet her. When we did our meet and greet, and by now you all can tell that whenever I do meet and greets with any of my guests, it is like a long hour or more conversation. And I love it because it gives us the opportunity to know each other and to learn about each other. And I love that. So I want you all to welcome my guest. Her name is Florenza Lee. Did I say it right?
You did perfectly.
Thank
Yes.
you. Tell us about yourself.
Well, I am Florenza Lee. I am a mom of two amazing adult women. I this is the first time I've called them that. I always call them my girls.
Oh,
The proud spouse of a veteran, and my husband served 31 years active duty Army. That was amazing time for me. I love being a military wife. I am an advocate for our nation's veterans. And as you said, I am a master storyteller. I am an author, a publisher, a speaker. I am kind of like the lady with all the hats. So, yes.
yes, we have that in common because I have just as many hats as you do. And that's one of the reasons why I gravitated towards you because I'm like, is someone else out there that does just as much as I do? You do maybe a little bit more, but I'm catching up with you. So I know you listen to my podcast and I know
Yes.
you've heard some of my stories. So I wanted to know what story resonated with you, what you want to talk about today.
You
Which
know what? And you're right. I listened to them, and there were so many that caught my attention. And the bad part is that there were so many, but there was one in particular that just resonated completely with who I am and the way that I create. And that was your story about dreams. And that one really just captured my attention, kind of picked me up, shook me up, and flipped me over and said, okay, girl, this is it.
good. Oh my God. I love that story. And I had forgotten about that story because it was a while ago that I wrote the story. But it is, listen, I'm telling you all, this is one of those things. If you are a person that believes in dreams, you would love this story. And let me tell you a little bit about the story itself. You could go on the podcast and listen to the entire story. It is called Dreams. Basically, what it is I'm talking about dreams that you have at night. And I was having some difficulties sleeping, and I'm like, "What's going on?" I mean, I was having some nightmares, and I remember one night, it was one of those things where I was having bad dreams, but
Mhm.
then once sometimes it was like I had to fight to wake up. And I'm like, what's going on? And I'm a God girl. So I'm like, Lord, I'm calling on the Lord to please help me with these dreams.
Right, right.
And so I remember what my pastor said. One Sunday, my pastor said the quickest way to make the devil leave you alone so you can get some rest is to read your Bible. So I thought that was hilarious. And I blew it off. But one night I couldn't sleep. I picked that Bible up and started reading my Bible. And within minutes, I was knocked out. So I was like, okay, this work. It didn't work all the time, but that was something that I started doing. But then when I finally realized that, you know what you need to do is just turn the computer off,
Mhm.
get off social media, do some things so that you or your mind can rest. And then I was able to go to sleep and finally get some sleep.
Right.
Well, the dreams start coming. I start having all these dreams, but my dreams where some of them were in color. They were like vivid color. And I'm
Mhm.
like, what is this? The next morning, I woke up and remembered everything. And then God started giving me stories. And I'm like, what is the characters, the plot line? Everything was so clear. And one Saturday morning, God was like, just write.
Mhm.
I wrote the not the entire book, but I wrote the intro. I wrote about all the characters so you could have a backstory. I started it and I wrote literally all day long. And it wasn't the only thing I did was go to the bathroom and eat. And by the time Saturday night was over, I reread and looked over. what I had, I'm like, oh my God, this is good. I wrote that book. And then I had another dream and I start writing the next story. Now, the book
Right.
is not out because I do believe in God's timing, but it
Right.
was so amazing to me how the dream just turned into books. And now it's kind of like the thing. I'm in bed and I have 5 books. I got 5 books, and it was like in a year's time. And I know the characters, I know the
Right.
plots, I know everything. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of what the story is about. You can go over and hear like the entire thing. So when you heard the story, what were your thoughts on it? I mean, what came back to you?
Yeah, and for people who have followed me throughout my authorship journey, know that the majority of my books manifested in dreams. I also dream in color. I have, and I used to know the actual term for it, but it's been my entire life. Even as a child, I would dream in color. I have audio. Um, uh, I hear in my dreams as well as smell, taste, touch. So all of my senses are present in my dreams. And there's some fancy term for it. Somebody told me what it was. I don't know. I forgot. So for me, my dreams are another world. I have neighborhoods in my dream that I go back to and I visit. I
Hmm.
have places where I shop in my dreams. It's a whole nother world. There are people there that I know their names. I mean, it is just this world, and it has been. I visit the same places today at 59 that I visited when I was 6 or 7, and it's just been this whole continuum in my dreams. So
That is amazing because I see old neighborhoods in my head and I'm like, what does that mean? Why am I constantly seeing this neighborhood in my head? And I'm very visual. And that's why I have hard time audio, listening. Sometimes I do have a hard time because I'm so visual. Now, if you put a picture with it and you talk, I got it. But
yes.
sometimes it takes me a minute to get it because I am so visual. So have you ever had an instance like I did where like you just dreamt and then you got up the morning and you just had to write? Or do you have a story that's similar to what happened to me? Even a part where you just couldn't sleep, because I had to start reading that Bible and start pleading some blood so I could get some sleep.
No, you know what? Even like nightmares, they don't scare me. I think because I always look for what's that lesson and what's that message and everything. I am that person that can get a message from an ant crawling across a wall. Like that's me. Um, but my first book that went international, The Tale of Max, the Mindless Dog, a children's book on mindfulness, which was actually the first published book for children that demonstrated the application of mindfulness. 100% of that book was given to me in a dream. And so I woke up that morning and wrote down all the words. One word changed from the dream to the completion. And that book is in 31 countries. And it's not the first book that I published. That morning before the dream, I got up, which was January the 31st, 2014. I got up and I wrote what would become 12 books. Of those 12, 5 are published. Um, and that night I went to sleep feeling really good. I had started my company that day. I bought 1,000 ISBNs. Yes, 1,000. I don't know what I thought God was going to do, but I felt like if He gave me 5 books or 12 books in one day, that I was going to go through that 1,000 like that, y'all. I am like, my faith is that crazy. And I went to sleep feeling really good. And I had that dream that I was reading a book that I had never heard of, I had never seen. I was reading it to hundreds of thousands of children, and they were going outside of the space that we were in. We were in this huge, like a IX um, place, and the children were still outside of there, outside of there, outside of there, which I later understood that that would mean that my books would go outside of my ability to reach. And so, and they have done that again. Max is in 31 countries. And I do want to tell your fabulous audience, if you should hear barking in the background, I've got a new puppy
Oh,
and
it's
she's so
okay.
disrespectful. She will not let me be great.
It's you are great, and she just your backup single. She just your backup. We just gonna pretend that she's the backup. She's back there cheering you on. You go, mama. You go, mama. You tell about them dreams.
She's so bossy. She's so bossy. She runs the house.
So you said that all of your books kind of come from dreams.
The majority of them. There are some where, um, and I have what I call daydreams as well. So it'll be thoughts that, get downloaded in me, and then or story. And so when I get my books, it's a movie. And so I can be sleeping, get the movie, or I can be awake and get the movie. And what happens is when I write down the story, I write in two colors. So I write what I saw and I write what I heard. And that's how I come up with the book. And almost all of them have come to me that way. There is one in particular that I labored over. I labored over that book. I mean, it was just a labor. Um, and everything else, though, was just such a beautiful, seamless process. And I have 30, I think 30 published titles now. I have to go back and count. I'm almost certain that it's 30. And of those, all but one was a visual, albeit a dream, sleep dream, or an awake dream.
It's so amazing because with me, my books are not children books. They're kind of like romantic novels
Hmm.
kind of thing, kind of books. But I remember everything. I
Hmm.
mean, although I've written one and the other one is half done, what happened was I had some computer issues and I
Hmm.
lost like 6 chapters. So I was traumatized by that. I mean, literally traumatized.
It'll do it.
So yes, it was. And I kept trying to get it back and I just couldn't get it back. And I lost a jump drive that I had saved part of it on. Anyway, I was so traumatized, but I remember everything that I wrote because
Yeah.
it started in a dream.
Hmm.
And then the
Hmm.
other 3 books, I know the characters, I know the plot line, I
Yeah.
know everything. And it's so
Yeah.
amazing to me. And when you said something about daydreams, I keep my phone and I use my notepad in my
Yep.
phone. And when
Yep.
I'm somewhere, I would go and I would type in something, or sometimes I'll just go to the park and I'll sit and I'll just download what I'm seeing and what I'm
Hmm.
hearing. And I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my God, that would be a great plot in the story. Oh, that would go with that.
Yeah.
So
Uh-huh.
is that kind of like how yours
Yep.
work? You could be somewhere and you'll just get boom.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I also write adult lit under a pen name. So I do everything. I do you every level of heat, every level. I do mystery, I do paranormal, I do romantic suspense. Under my name are my children's books, and my Christian, my inspirational books are under my name. And yeah, so you get those downloads, you get those stories that just come to you. And sometimes the stories are to prompt you to look at things differently. Like you may see an older couple walking and they're holding hands, and maybe one person drops the hand, and your mind is like, okay, what did he do that made her drop his hand? I know they were in an argument before they got there. So then your brain starts thinking, ooh, how can I, twist this into a part of a story? Because every single thing in life, as a writer, as a creator, everything is game. Like, my family knows I may change the name to protect the guilty,
Yes.
but baby, if you didn't care about living it, I ain't caring about writing it. I changed the name. I have some respect for you, but it's going in a book.
Yes, that's like my stories on my podcast. I share they're all personal stories. They're
Yeah.
my stories. I might change the name, I might, fix it so that, you know, you have to listen to it. Oh Lord, she is talking about me. And so funny is because I did write a story when I taught school about my students. One of
Uh-huh.
my parents follows me on Facebook, and Facebook has said, "Are you talking about us?" And I was. He knew, but it was a positive story because I was talking
Uh-huh.
about how amazing my parents were, and he was one of my parents. So it was
Okay.
a positive, it was a good story, and I was talking about them, and he
Uh-huh.
knew it based on the story. But I am also like you as far as when I'm in a restaurant, when I'm somewhere, I'm always creating a
Yeah.
story or a scenario with people. You
Hmm.
know, if I
Hmm.
see them in a restaurant and I see a couple at a table, I can make a story up about that entire thing. As a matter of fact, one time I did it with a group of ladies and they thought I knew the couple. And I didn't know the couple at all, but
Uh-huh.
I made up this whole story and they were like, and I was
Yep.
like, yeah, I do know. I don't know them. I just
Right.
made that up because they were so interesting. Is that something you do as well?
Right.
You do the same thing when you're like
Yes.
out somewhere?
Yes, absolutely. And your mind begins to like fill in these blanks or create these narratives, right? Um, but that's what we do. And we're creatives, right? And sometimes it doesn't take a prompt. Like it could be anything, anything. Uh, the wind could blow a certain way, and it's like the wind blew through the trees and rustled the leaves as she sat behind her desk. Yeah, I mean, what?
Yes. Sometimes, but do you find it
That.
frustrating sometimes because it's almost like your brain is always on, it's always seeing, it's always creating. You're always like finding. I mean, in just a small, I went for a walk today. I was so
Uh-huh.
frustrated about something. I went for a walk today and I had my music playing and everything. And as I was walking, I saw this man with a baby
Uh-huh.
and my whole brain went about this man and the baby. And I was like, what are you doing? You're supposed to be walking, relaxing, everything. And now you over here creating a story about this man and his baby. It was so funny.
But that's what we do. And so, and on top of being a creative, I am a true Gemini, June 12th Gemini. So there's no off switch. Like I have one speed and that's go. And so even in my sleep, I'm going. Like it there is no stop. There is no off. There is no the ever ready, what is it? The ever ready bunny has nothing
Yeah,
on me. Like he has nothing on me, okay? Where he stops is where I start. Um and so I love it. I love that it's just constantly something going on.
that's good. That's good. Well, do you have anything that you're working on now?
So actually, yeah, so a couple things. For those who follow me, I do have several series of children's books. I have the Olivia series. We just started the Brooklyn series. Olivia is this very precocious little girl who's based after one of my best friend's daughters. I was actually there the moment she was born. And she just gets into everything. And so I have a complete series about her. She's just this cute little black girl that wears a trench coat and carries around her magnifying glass. For some of the older ones, you may remember like Punky Brewster, that kind of a setting. So that's kind of the mindset for those characters. And so we're working on a series with her little sister. Her little sister's Taylor, and when the Olivia books came out and they hit it so big and they were just like in the newspapers and on the news and such, and she says, Auntie, uh, you don't have a book with me. And I'm like, well, you're in the book. She's like, no, I want a book for me.
Oh my.
So, so I want to do a Taylor series that's focused on finances,
Hmm.
business sense, savings, doing a checking account, understanding um, rate of returns, and those sort of things to make our children financially intelligent and just in a fun, creative way. Also, for my backlist, we're translating all of the books into 10 languages. We've already started with four of the books. They're in, of course, English, but we have Spanish, Polish, Mandarin, Russian, Ukrainian. We are bringing on French, Fashi, Italian, and German.
That's
Um,
amazing.
yes, and only 1% of indie published books are even translated into one language. I've not been able to find a statistic for what I'm doing. And it's so crazy because when a thought dropped in my spirit, I thought, where am I going to find translators? Because I am a one person shop. So I don't, I have to
Mhm.
go out and find all my, my participants and my helpers. And so even God did that. I said one morning that I wanted translators, and that morning we woke up and we were going to an event. And I told my husband, I said, we're not going to sell that many books, but I'm going to get all my translators. And we picked up Ukrainian, Russian, um, and Arabic that day, just from attendees who had come by our table. And so that's something that we're doing. Under my pen name, I'm in the process of writing. I finished, well, I have two books that are published under the pen name, three more that will be released over the next couple months. One that's coming out October, one that's coming out in February, and then a third is coming out June next year. Um, One book is currently being reviewed by one of the major publishing houses. Um, I don't quite know how I feel about that because I love being an independently published author. I love having
Yeah.
ownership.
Yeah.
Um, so we've got that going on. Oh my gosh, so much children's clothing line for two of the books, and what else? Oh,
You're
some
just a
other new
busy bee.
projects.
Yeah,
Woo!
you're just a
That
busy
busy that the
beaver.
phone even failed. The phone
The
gave out.
phone
It
is
gave
impressed.
out the
He's like,
ghost.
you go, girl.
My phone fainted. It
Well,
gave up the ghost.
that is amazing. I love it. I love to see women doing well, doing great things. And I'm excited about the children's book because that is something that I plan on doing later. I tried to get it started, but I have a cousin who draws and he is amazing. And we had this concept and we had everything. And I'm like, if you just draw the main character, we discussed what the main character was going to be. It
Uh-huh.
was going to be an animal. We were going to talk about it. And he just could not or would not do it. I shouldn't
Listen,
say would not. He just couldn't, like, he had to center his thoughts and he was having a hard time doing it. And I'm like, well, I'm waiting on you whenever, because once I get the character, because I'm visual, once I can see this little dude or duet, I can just write the whole story. But I need,
yeah,
something to have because it's something we collaborated on together. It wasn't
yeah,
something that God really gave me, but it's something that I've always wanted to do because I work with children.
yeah,
I used to teach the little ones, and I used to make up stories, and the parents will always want to buy the books. I'm like, no, I made that
yeah,
up.
yeah.
That was a
And that's
story.
and that's what the children's books are. But I'm going to tell you, children's books are the hardest genre to do. And when one, just because of the cost, the average cost for illustrations, the average low end is 3,800. It can go as much as 10,000, and that's for one book. Um, and so when you're talking about artists, excuse me, you want to make sure it's okay to do a book with someone that's just starting. Um, I would, if I were like coaching, I would advise work with someone that's familiar with illustrating children's books because it's not just art. Um, it's so much more than that. It's image placement, it's text placement. The images come after the text because the illustrator has to know what the story is, what the feeling is. Certain colors go with with certain
Hmm.
messages in the books. So it's so much more um, that's involved. And so if you are going to do it, you want to work with someone that has industry knowledge um, of children's books, and you talk to the other authors that they've worked with, like you research them, because parents invite me into their children's bedrooms. I've sold collectively over 100,000 copies of my books. As I said, they're in 31 countries. um, Parents invite me into bedrooms, and they invite me into the backseat of their cars, and I'm with their children sometimes when they aren't, because they trust the product that I've created, right? To go into those intimate spaces with their children. So it's a lot of work, but definitely as a storyteller, you are a phenomenal storyteller. Girl, come jump in on the crazy side.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the reason why I talked to this particular cousin is because he does have some of those things. He doesn't have all of them because he's never written a book before, had a book published. But as far as his artwork,
Hmm.
yes. And because of his background, he's like this tech guru, write
Hmm.
programs, does all of that stuff. I mean, his brain is amazing, but he's so gifted and talent. He just needs to, it's something that he needs to do with them himself, I
Yeah.
believe. He has to fine tune it and make, okay, this is what I want to do, or
Hmm.
I want to do this and this, but let me focus on this, because he's all over the place. But he is
Hmm.
such a great artist. I love him. He is such a great artist. Now, I do have a question for you.
Yes.
With all that you do, all these different hats that you wear, what would you say is like the hat that you enjoy the most? I know you like them all, but if you had to do one, if you said, oh my God, all these hats, which one would it be?
Oh, hands down. Oftentimes people think that authorship is my first love, but it's not. Empowering women to step into their purpose and understand their vision and hear the voice of God and to become complete and whole and to recognize their crown and their throne. That's my number one passion. Like all the other stuff is sprinkles. You know what I'm saying? But
Yes.
and the empowerment of women, especially women that life has crushed, those that have experienced traumatic loss, those that lost relationships, lost children, lost their purpose and their vision. Man, that's my sweet spot. Everything else is just like, okay, this is fun. But man, we get to talking about that. Oof, yeah, that's my
Listen, I'm telling you, you are my sister from another mister and all that. Because all the hats that I wear, all that I do, one of the things I enjoy the most
yeah.
is when I'm helping women, because I lost my voice. My whole premise of who I am is to be the storyteller is because I lost my voice. I stopped
Hmm.
talking and I stopped standing up for myself at the age of 6. And I went through a lot.
Yeah.
And at 23, God gave me my voice back. And He said, I want you to use your voice to help women who's
Hmm.
lost their voice, whether it's in
Hmm.
their marriage, on their jobs,
Right.
personally, whatever it is. And I love helping people. I love helping people to find their stories, to tell their stories. So
Hmm.
that is one of the
Hmm.
things that I enjoy the most. I have an online class that I teach. And let me tell you, I love teaching that class because it's helping people. And then when I see God downloading stories in their head
Yes.
from their childhood, they're like, oh, I completely forgot about that. I was like, jot it down because God
Yes.
gave you that story for a reason.
Yes.
I love it. And then when they get it, it's like a light bulb that goes off on it. I love those moments.
Yes. And it's so powerful. And I know we're talking about dreams, and this would fall more under a vision, but I call them my daydreams. And I was just sitting on a bed, just doing something, probably folding clothes or something. And all of a sudden, I'm in this vision and I'm walking in heaven and I'm walking with Jesus and he's not saying anything. And I look over and I see a hat and I look up at him and he kind of messages, through me, it's okay to get the hat. So I go pick up the hat and I look at it and it says wife. And I'm like, oh, cool. I'm one of those. So I put it on my head. And we're just walking. And then I see another hat. And so by now I'm like, okay. So I run and get it and it says daughter. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then I see another one, mother and speaker and preacher, which I am, and teacher and evangelist, which I am, and all these other things. And so by now, and some things that I hadn't yet recognized, right? There were some labels on hats that are yet to come.
Hmm.
And I'm walking and like the hats are like almost looking like Dr. Seuss is up there with them, right? And so I'm looking at Jesus and now I'm kind of getting salty because I'm like, hey, yo, your hands are empty. You can help me, right? But I'm still trying to keep up and I'm still trying to walk and I'm balancing the hats and nothing's falling. But at this point, I am just so frustrated. I'm disappointed. My my feelings are hurt. My heart is hurt because I'm feeling that this has been put on me and I'm not getting the help. Where's the one set of
Mm.
footprints in the sand for me, right?
Yeah.
I ain't getting carried, right? And so I look over, and in the corner is another hat. And he looks at me and nods. And I'm like, are you serious? So I trudge over, and the hats are like this. And I ease down and I use my toe because I got long toes. So they're like another set of hands. I got monkey toes. And so I reach and I get the hat and I'm still balancing and I turn it around and it said obedience. And I threw all the other hats off and I put on that
Oh,
hat. And he
yes.
said to me, the other things are labels that you put on you. This is the only requirement that I've ever had of you. That freed me up to, I've never been a people pleaser. I can care less what people think about me. That's their opinion. You run a clean show. So I won't tell you what my grandmother said about opinions.
No, it's okay.
she
Believe me, because
she was
my
salty.
stories sometimes, I have a little bit in there, but it's what actually happened.
Yeah. But I think it comes down to, and I know that this resonates with you as well, excuse me, is that when we walk in obedience, everything that we needed is provided for us. He led the children of Israel, even in their disobedience, he still led them by a cloud during the day to protect them from the
Mm-hmm.
sun, and by
And
fire at
fire
night
at
to give
night.
them guidance and direction and heat. And so, if in a disobedient state, he did those things for them, imagine the blessings that he showers down on us when we're in obedience. And so, before that, I considered myself to be obedient. I said, I'm just ignorant enough to take God at his word. Like, I don't even challenge it. Like, he says, jump, I'm already moving. But that vision solidified in me all that I'm required to do is simply to be obedient. And
Yes.
so you ask, how can I do the things that I do? Because I know if my daddy put them on my plate, and if it's too much, he's telling me the plate is too small and start eating from the table. And if the table can't handle it, the
Mm-hmm.
floor is bigger. He like eat from the floor. And if the floor ain't big enough, guess
I
what?
know
I
that's
live
right.
on the street. So he's like eat from the street. And if the street ain't big enough, look, guess what? I live in a city. Okay. And that city is in a state, and that state is in a country. And that country is in a hemisphere or
In the
somewhere.
world. Yes, absolutely.
And
I
so
love
that's
it.
how that goes.
I love it. And you can tell she's a storyteller because she told it just like a storyteller, just like I would tell a story. And I know growing up, my family must have thought this girl is long-winded because when I did started to talk, or when I was talking, it was always telling some kind of story. I've always told stories from a little girl, but oh my
Uh-huh.
God, that is good. I love it. And I like that. I love the last hat just to
Mm-hmm.
be obedient because so many times we try to do things ourselves and God is like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't need your hat. I don't need your help. Just do what I
No.
asked you to do. That's all. That's all. I'm not saying anything else. Just do what I asked you to do. Don't try to help me out. I got
Yeah.
this because I see everything. I
Yes.
did choose you before you were even born. So I know
Yep.
what your life is going to be like. So, yes, I love it. So, listen, at the end of my stories, I always share my thoughts and I ask questions. And we probably already answered the questions, but let's go over them again and we may
Okay.
answer them a little bit differently. I'll let you answer first and then I'll ask you answer. The first question is, are there some are you someone who believes in dreams? Why and why not?
Yes, and I've already told you why. Check.
Check. Yes, I do believe in dreams, and I pretty much told you why because of all the dreams that produced books
Mm-hmm.
and all the things that's going on in my life. A lot of it came through dreams, so that's a yes. The second one is, has any of your dreams been in color? And you dream in
Yes.
color, and I as well. I dream not all the time, but a lot of times I dream in color, but even in the daytime, sometimes I see things in color and it's so bright
Mhm,
and so
mhm.
vivid. And I believe sometimes it's that way because God wants me to take note of
Yes.
whatever it is.
Mhm,
Whatever it
mhm.
is, I need to see it. And I love that. I really love, I'm like, even people,
Yeah.
like, I need you to take note of her
Yep.
or him or
Yep.
that. And I just beam right into it. So listen, you told us a lot about your books and everything, but tell us what's going on, where we can find you if they want to find the books, what's going on, all the things that you do. Share with the audience so they'll know how to contact you or reach out to you.
Yeah, so for those that are familiar with Sociotap, you can find me sociotap/Florenza. You may also find me at florenza.org, which is my website. Words to Ponder Publishing.com is my publishing website. For those who want to find that spicy side,
Mm.
Aiken, yeah, aikenponder.com is that site. My books are available anywhere that books are sold online: Walmart, Target, Books a Million, Barnes and Noble, a lot of indie bookstores, as well as Amazon. Florenza.org is my main website where you're able to go to get all of the books as well. We're always running specials. I used to keep my calendar online, but when I left the VA and wrote full time, a lot of my veterans were following me around. My husband's like, they can't be in a kitty line. You got to do something. So I don't keep my calendar online anymore. But we are soon to be in Atlanta, in San Diego. We're going to be in Nashville. We're going to be in Chicago. We're going to be in Florida. So if any of your listeners are in those places, hit me up and let me know, and we may be able to swing by and just kind of say hey.
That is amazing. That's awesome. And listen, I will have everything that she just told you about in the description, and I will try to put as many the names of as many books as I can as possible that would fit because
Just
it's
do the
like
website.
30. It's so many books. So, but I just want them to be able, to reach you and reach out to you because I think this is such a blessing, and I love the books that you have that are series, that's
Yeah,
a group of books. And whenever I go look for books, I do look for books with little chocolate girls and little chocolate boys in it, and I will buy them and give them to my nieces and nephew
yeah,
because I want to see it. I want them to see us in print. Not that we don't, it's gotten better, but it
yeah,
could be a lot better.
yeah,
So we
yeah.
want to support you. We want to make sure that we get your books into our homes, to our babies. So, and thank you for everything that you do. And thank you for being on the show and just for being an awesome person that you are.
Thank you. And hey, to your listeners, go to your public libraries and ask them to carry my books in there. That's a wonderful way for you to get to read them for free. And that helps the indie authors as well. So if you have any indie author friends, just go to your public library and say, hey, can you please get a book, by Florenza Lee? And they will get those in. There are more public libraries than there are McDonald's. So,
Wow.
yes, mention us to your public libraries, and that's a wonderful way to support an independent author.
Oh, that's a good nugget. That's a good one because I didn't know that. So
Hmm.
well, I have to go back to the library to take care of something. So I'm just gonna do that very same thing in my state at my
Yeah,
library. I'm
yeah.
going to
Thank
do it.
you.
So thank you again.
You're welcome. Thank you guys, and have a good day and happy reading.
Bye.
Bye.